The Great Debate Series. Best wide receiver ever.
There you go. So today and this week, we're going to be taking position groups, and we're going to talk, when we say wide receiver, we mean NFL wide receiver, right? We're not going back to the college days to make these arguments.
Oh, it's just their NFL career.
Just their NFL career. So we're not talking about greatest body of work like from, youth football all the way up.
Right, and we're not talking about a guy that was really good in college but didn't do anything in the pros like Tim Tebow of wide receivers.
Yes, so this is just an NFL conversation. I picked a player, Perloff picked a player. We're just doing one for one here. No top five lists, anything like that. So, shall I go first?
Please.
The greatest wide receiver of all time is Jerry Rice. And for that, there is no debate. Jerry before Brady won all those Super Bowls, might have been the greatest football player ever. He even had an argument to be made there. What I think is great about and where Jerry really separates himself was his best against the best. So let's just take, for example, Deion Sanders against Jerry Rice. 10 meetings. Rice had 60 receptions, over 1,000 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns with Sanders covering Rice. I mean, let's go on to the accolades. Hall of Famer, of course. MVP of Super Bowl 23, of course. 3-time Super Bowl champion. Led the league in touchdowns 6 times. And has 22 receiving touchdowns, in 29 playoff games. He's second in playoff games started, only to Tom Brady. And the longevity, I think, summed up in this one stat, which is his first 1,000-yard-plus receiving season was in his second year, and his last 1,000-yard receiving season was in his 18th year. This is a sustained success over a 20-year career, basically, and still number one on many statistical lists.
Yeah, the guy could play some football. He's not bad.
I know.
He's not bad.
Jerry Rice, number one. Perloff, go ahead.
Okay, I'm actually going to cede my argument time to somebody who probably has a better idea. How about we hear from my number one receiver of all time in NFL history, Randy Moss.
Randy, who's the best receiver to ever play in the NFL?
You talking to him
already?
I put myself first. I put T.O. second. I think Jerry's probably third or fourth. I'm talking about dominating the game and changing the game of football. I don't live on statistics, because if you live on statistics and live on championships, that's all political.
Maggie and Perloff could break it down, but what's better than a nuanced conversation with Randy Moss and Terrell Owens debating? Now, I do think this. I think Randy Moss is more talented than Jerry Rice. I think Jerry Rice benefited from being with the greatest, 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, the single greatest offensive coach in the history of the NFL. If Jerry Rice had gotten drafted by the Cardinals and not the Niners, he wouldn't be top 5 in this list. Where Randy Moss could have been drafted anywhere by anybody. He was the system. And to me, he's the most talented, and also in many ways, in a shorter time, was as prolific, has the all-time record, 23 touchdowns in a season. There was nobody like Randy Moss. He could do different things than Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was amazing. Obviously, I'm not going to...
You're calling him a compiler, though.
Oh, I will. First of all, you're back to your longevity take.
It always matters. 10-time All-Pro for Jerry Rice.
Yeah, the guy played forever. Even with the Raiders, he was still good. But Randy Moss, we know he took off plays. We know all that. We know that he probably could have gotten more out of his career. But I got to tell you, at his top, Randy Moss is the best wide receiver in the history of the NFL.
I think I got to go with Rice here again, just because of plays like this from Jerry Rice in the Super Bowl. It's not political. It's called production.
Back to throw. Throws over the middle. A fight gets for Rice. Rice into the 20. He's down to the 19 for a first down for the 49ers. Another brilliant catch by Jerry Rice.
1 minute left as Rice goes over the 200-yard mark in receiving.
And he was MVP of that Super Bowl. Amazing. I think
that was a Bill Walsh designed slant. Bill Walsh was the GOAT.
Okay, but do you think John Gruden is the GOAT? Because Jerry was also great when he got to Oakland and was with Gruden and the Raiders.
Great
He's not. That's what I'm saying. Like,
No, I'm saying Rice wasn't great. He was okay.
they got to a Super Bowl and lost. I mean, Rice was a part of that.
Yeah, he was still a very good player. It's amazing. His longevity is unbelievable. And also, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're not denigrating the other guy. I just think Randy Moss, if you ask me who's the best wide receiver to ever play in the NFL, my answer is Randy Moss.
Man, I just can't get there. Samter, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I just think for me, Jerry Rice clearly, statistically, like Randy Moss said, is the best. There's no question. He's so far above. But you talk about talent. There's never been a receiver with the size, the speed, the hands, the jumping ability, and everything that Randy Moss has. Talent-wise, hands down, Randy Moss is the most talented wide receiver we've ever seen. No question. Statistically, there's no question that Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time. So it just depends on which way you want to go with it.
But you even acknowledge it yourself. Randy took plays off. You know, there were, like, you can be the most talented, but are you also most engaged? Like, there is a part of this, and listen, I think it's fine for wide receivers to have big personalities. I'm not someone who ever held stuff against T.O. or anything like that, but Jerry was not that guy. No. You want to talk about someone who never caused a headache or anything, it was Jerry Rice.
I don't know.
Very rare.
Jerry, I don't think Jerry was quite the saint you're making him out to be. He was obviously a big team player. Randy Moss, however, if he didn't take those plays off and do those things, then he couldn't do the spectacular stuff. That's all part of the package. I understand this. It sounds so stupid, but he's like a comet streaking across the sky and catching touchdowns, where Jerry Rice was in this great West Coast offense. They invented the West Coast offense, and it was like a million paper cuts. Boom, boom, boom. Just kept hitting and kept accumulating yards and touchdowns. And that's why, to me, he's the third best wide receiver of all time.
Yeah, who's two?
Well, Calvin Johnson, but I disagreed with Randy Moss there. No, I'm just kidding. Jerry's second. Calvin's the second most talented. Randy Moss is the most talented.
So we're getting some questions in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, or maybe some suggestions. Craig saying, what about Larry Fitzgerald as number 2, he's saying. Craig also saying, what about Marvin Harrison, number 3?
I think it's hard to distinguish Marvin Harrison from that offense because similar to Jerry in the sense that Peyton Manning was throwing to him, so who knows who would he have been somewhere else?
I know, but see, this is, if you're just saying they're a product of the system all the time, I mean, I know you also think Tom Brady was a system quarterback, but when we get to quarterbacks, which we're going to do on Wednesday, do you not put Tom Brady there because Bill Belichick might be the greatest coach of all time, and they happen to team up for 20 years?
Well, Belichick wasn't a great offensive coach.
He's a defensive coach,
so
but still.
Brady gets a lot of it. No, but I do think, has it ever struck you as weird that the greatest quarterback and the greatest wide receiver and a Hall of Fame running back all landed in the same spot at the same time? Or is it because they were all helping out each other and the system took them from where they were as a very, very good players to next level beyond all time? Okay,
but you got to be up for that challenge because we're talking about the Jets and hype this year and whether they're going to live up to your expectations. We get a lot of really a talented collection of guys, and they don't do jack squat. So
they did. Bill Walsh was their coach.
Well, okay, but that's also, you give credit to the front office, you give credit to the coaching staff and everyone on the same page, not to mention they were dealing with like an all-time ridiculous quarterback situation that in this day and age, as opposed to in the 90s, I don't know if that would have been a tenable situation. With the media, it would have been, to have Montana and Young on the same team would have just been crazy. We can barely have, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love on the same team. And that's like not even close.
Oh, man. The Twitter era would have been great for that, though.
Brady didn't even want Garoppolo on the team. Imagine.
I think we're getting a little off target there. I don't know how we got into the Steve Young, Joe Montana.
No, I'm just saying that I think that it's not a negative because you had a great coach with great players and they all became Hall of Famers. I think that's a positive to show that everyone is pulling in the right direction, because we often get a lot of teams that look like super teams that fail to live up to expectations.
Right.
So I don't want to take away from a team that doesn't fail to do that.
So the super team, though, the super team is this idea that talented players are going to be able to do it when it's really the system more than the talent. The most talented teams do not win things. That's just the way it is, in my opinion. Of course, that's how nobody agrees with me on this. But generally, I don't think talent wins. I think a lot of different things. I think teamwork is just as important.